Hello everyone and welcome to a new IK video. This is Ken from server 73. I got it right this time. Alright, in this video we're going to talk about how to read a battle report. This is one of the most important things, if it's not the most important, when it comes to PvP, because it helps you to figure out the right build for the right situation. And I already said before that when it comes to reading a battle report, if I want to make a detailed video about it, it's going to be 7 to 8 hours long. However, I'm gonna talk about a specific marches in this video one by one. So I'm gonna start by water marches first, since it is the most common one for low spenders or free to play players, and I want to help these guys in order to figure out the right build first. So when it comes to battle reports, the first thing, there's a couple of things that you need to look at before anything else. Whatever the element that you're looking for, whatever the fight, well, the things you need to look for is damage dealt in both sides. So in this one here, you can see that I did not stand a chance against his mixed march, and my Attila dealt 6 million damage, 6 million damage from Merlin, and the damage dealt on the other side. So the first thing you need to look at is the damage dealt, and then you need to figure out how to deal with the damage dealt in this fight. That in case you have lost or you're looking at the damage dealt and you need to think about a way to improve the damage dealt in this fight. For example, in this fight here, you can see that Prophecy dealt almost 28 million damage, Annihilation dealt almost 10 million damage. That just means that the main source of damage that is coming from Merlin is his main skill, which is Prophecy. So I'm using skills that buffs his damage in general, such as Demonic Contract and Concentration. If you don't have Demonic Contract, maybe you can use Rage that increases his crit rate, or you can use a skill such as Wisdom that increases his magical attack once the fight starts. So this is the main thing you need to look at, the damage dealt and the damage taken. In this fight here, I won the fight easily, and in this one as well, and you can see most of the damage is always coming from Merlin and Attila second behind him. And you will notice that it is always Prophecy is the main source of damage. Sometimes damages can crit and sometimes it can deal just the normal damage. So whenever you see a lot of critical hit, that means that the other party are not using Malice, the aura skill that decreases the crit rate by 20%. However, if you are counting on your critical damage and you need your mage or whatever main damager to deal a lot of critical damage, you gotta use some certain aura skills or some skills on your main march, such as weakness, and you need to make sure that the opponent is not using Malice and so on. So this is when it comes to the damage dealt. The second thing that you need to look for is the damage taken and how to improve this part or how to defend yourself against this part. For example, in this fight here, you can see that the damage taken is mainly, when it comes to Ragnar, it is Alexander, almost 13 million damage, Hannibal Barca, 6 million damage, mainly from the cleave damages, the Howling Blast and the cleave. For Attila, damage taken is mostly from Hannibal Barca, since he was face to face with Hani, and the damage taken for Ragnar is mostly from Alex, because he was face to face to Alex. And then you can see the damage taken here is 9.5 from Hani, almost 9 million from Alex, and so on. For Dido, you can see it is Hani and Alex, and here it is the same. So that means that most of the damage taken in this fight is physical damage. Well, mainly I did not build my water march to counter physical damage. It's mainly countering the magical damage. This is why I'm using energy suppression and I'm using Malice. So this is how I'm building my water march, to counter fire marches or lightning marches that are using Hammurabi. So in order to counter this, there is a couple of skills that you need to think for, which is the first one is Oaken Guard. You need to always use Oaken Guard versus fast physical damage in a mixed march, and maybe physical defense or defense splitting could help as well. A skill such as Physical Shield or Lifelink or Fighting Master could help as well. For example, when I used to fight mixed marches using my water march. Let me find a report here. I'm pretty sure I have one. For example, this one here. This is an earth march that I used to fight with my water march. If you look at my Ragnar's belt here, you will notice that I'm using a lot of defensive skills against physical damage, starting by life link, oaken guard, and physical shield. Looking at the damage taken here, it is mainly Alex. Alex is the main damager, and also second after Alex is Genghis Khan. So mainly the damage is coming from this march is mainly physical damage. This is why I'm using all these defensive skills. As for Merlin, you can see that I'm using Merlin as the main damager with Rage, Annihilation, and Concentration. And still, you can see that Prophecy is the main source of damage. This is why using Concentration on Merlin at all times is just so important. Alright, so this is when it comes to damage dealt and damage taken. You need to look at them truly, and you need to figure out a way to counter this or improve this. If it's damage, if your damage dealt is kind of low, concerned, is low according to your expectations, then you need to work on it by adding an aura skill that improves damage, or changing the skills that you're already using on your damage dealer. It always helps a lot. When it comes to damage taken, you need to figure out the type of the damage, whether it is physical or magical or even true damage. And then you need to figure out a way to counter this damage. If it was critical damage, then you need to use malice or increase your resilience value. And if it was normal damage, then you need to figure out a way also to counter this damage. If it was magical damage, then you need to think about using a skill such as resist, because resist counters the magical damage at the beginning of the fight. It always helps a lot. Alright, if it's also physical damage, there is another way to counter physical damage, which is misleading. However, it doesn't help that much lately, because strong marches that has a lot, or it has a high accuracy value, such as this one. You can see here the accuracy value on Hani is 4.5 thousand. Even though I'm using misleading, I don't think he missed that much. I mean, it is only one normal attack here, 3%. And for Hani, it is only one normal attack as well, 4%. That means that misleading doesn't help a lot these days if you're up against someone with a max dragon tree or accuracy value talent. The second thing that you need, or the third thing that you need to look for after the damage dealt or the damage taken, is the control for certain immortals or dragons that apply control. For example, Attila here dealt 16 seconds of silence, and dragon did not freeze anyone, which means that it affected the fight somehow. Let's look for a different report, maybe here. Attila here dealt 16 seconds of silence. This was so important because he was facing Ramses and he could apply some control to Merlin as well. And my dragon did not freeze anyone. Let's check his dragon. His dragon only freezes one immortal, but the talents he's using is kind of not the best to use for this march here. So this could have made some difference. Control is one of the most important factors to look at in any report. 14 seconds here. Actually, dragon freeze two opponents here in this fight, which is very interesting. This could change the outcome of the entire battle, because the control from dragon lasts for 11 seconds. The water dragon lasts for 11 seconds. He frees William. Yeah, William and Genghis Khan. So they are not able to act. And by the time that they are able to act again, they could have lost at least 25% of their HP. And one attack from Merlin is just gonna nuke the entire march. Right, so this is when it comes to control. There is some advanced stats that you need to look for, which is the stats for each and every immortal. The first stat that you need to look for example, attack immortals, is the physical attack. The amount of physical attack that they have is just so important, because this is the main source of damage, the physical damage. For example, my Attila here has almost 7.5 thousand physical attack. For the opponent here, he got 7.6 thousand. The dragon is a bit higher than mine, and Hippolyta got only 7,000 damage because the artifact. You need also to take a look at the artifact main attribute and the special attribute, because it makes a lot of difference in a fight. However, ever since I'm using DPS skills on my Attila, and this is a fire march, which means that I have the advantage, you can see that Attila dealt a lot of damage in this fight here. Let's check another fight where the difference in stats is important. For example, this one here, if you take a look at Alex, it is only 4.2 physical attack because the artifact is mainly providing physical defense. For Hani, it is 4.2 physical attack because also the artifact here applies physical defense. And you can see already the difference. This is a mixed march. I know it's not the strongest, but still Attila dealt a lot of damage considering to the opponents here. And of course Merlin with the highest damage here. This is mainly because the difference in stats. If you take a look at the other stats, you can see here the physical defense works wonders versus physical damage dealers if it was high enough. For example, Ragnar here, you managed to hold Alex a bit before he switched to Attila. I mean, the damage taken from Alex here is mainly from Heavenly Thunder. Yeah, I think Alex dealt some damage to Attila, but still, Ragnar held him off for a bit, I believe. So if you lose a fight against any opponent, you need to take a look at the stats first. For example, this fight here, you can see this is an Earth March with Cleopatra. If you take a look at the Immortal stats, you can see that this is a decent amount of physical attack for Alex. For Cleo, the magical attack is 6.2. My Merlin is 5.7. This is mainly why I lost the fight. Even though without the elemental buff, I believe I would have lost the fight because of the ultimate skill for Cleopatra. Also, the lots of the stats that you need to look for is the resilience and the resilience and the magical defense. Resilience and magical defense are so important versus magical damage. For example, I'm using Malice on my Water March. I have a decent amount of resilience, which is above 3,000. However, I believe he's using weakness. Yeah, he's using weakness, and he's using chase. He's using a crit rate artifact. So taking a look at this, you can see that the main damage came from Cleo with over 40% crit rate on this breath, 22% here, 10% here, and 10 attempts from chase. However, 42% is a very high crit rate considering that I have a decent amount of resilience and I'm using Malice as well on my Ditto. Alright, so this is when it comes to the damage dealt, damage taken, control, base stats, and one more thing that I wanted to talk about is definitely the skills. Alright, so you need to check mainly the auras. This is what I always start with, what kind of auras that the opponent is using. For example, this opponent here is not using Malice. This is why Merlin managed to do a high damage considering that Cleopatra is literally shutting him down with her ultimate skill. So you need to check for the aura skills that the opponent is using. If they are using a skill such as misleading, then you can counter it by using Corchin. If they are using a skill such as weakness, then you can counter the skill by using a skill such as Malice. You know, these kind of stuff. And of course, you need to have a deep understanding of the ultimate skills for the immortals that you're up against. For example, in this fight here, the Earth March, where did it go? Yeah, in this fight here, they have Cleopatra that reduces my magical damage by 35%. If I knew that this opponent here is using Cleopatra, I wouldn't have started with my Water March. Or if I'm up against an opponent that using an Earth March with Cleopatra, I would never attack using my Water March because it counters my magical damage and it is the main source of damage in my march here. And of course, Charles is using shields for the opponent. I know Attila is facing Charles in this fight, which is the perfect situation. And as for Alex, he deals an insane amount of damage. So I could have used physical shield on my Ragnar if it was BVB, or I could have at least used removed energy suppression for a skill such as Oakengar. So this is when it comes to the skills that the opponent is using and the ultimate skills for the immortals that you're up against. Hopefully this is everything that I wanted to talk about. This is mainly the basics about reading battle reports and fighting against or with a water march. So this is everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Hopefully next one I'll cover the fire march. This will be all for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day.